Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Whitaker, and it's great to have you here with us today. This is the weekly podcast for ambitious stylists and salon owners. And every week, I either bring a guest onto the show or I'll dive into a new area or revisit the foundations of what it takes to succeed in the salon industry. We'll feature new startups and new ideas and initiatives from established people and brands across the world. Some of them might at first sound a little bit too niche, but we'll explore why they're worth keeping an eye on, how they'll reshape client expectations, and how they'll be central to the future of the salon industry and perhaps even become the new normal. And that leads us perfectly into introducing today's guests, the co-founders of Williams-Hirst, a new co-working space in the heart of London's Soho district. In today's podcast, we'll discuss the co-working salon business model and what's driving the independent hairdressing movement, and the importance of having rental packages that work for everyone, and lots more. So without further ado, welcome to the show, the founders of Williams-Hirst, Jack and Ross Williams-Hirst. So welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Hi, Anthony.
I'm really excited, actually, because, your business has only just opened, and I think 2 months ago, you said, and it's made quite a lot of noise already in the trade media, etc. There's a lot of talk about the salon, and I dare say some of that is because of the business model that you've got, which is, something that's growing in our industry rapidly, and you've got a slightly different take on it to other people. And some of it is because you have done a beautiful job on this new salon. It is a absolutely beautiful space, and you've got a lot of editorial coverage because of that. So congratulations. It certainly looks fantastic. So I want you just to tell us about the concept behind Williams-Hirst.
So we, our sort of journey to where we are now, in a nutshell, is we were employed for quite a number of years in a really successful London salon. And just before COVID, I think there was that sort of shift in the industry where the self-employed, freelance, whatever you want to call it, was on the rise. And we kind of just, your ears prick up and you get the interest and you think, what's that about? So we took the dive and we went freelance on a commission split model. And then we went to lockdown. So to be honest, it wasn't great because we were out of that furlough period. It was a real grey area. But what it did do is it gave us essentially a year, 18 months of what do we want to do? Because we wanted to do a salon. When we first met 10 years ago, we wanted to do an employed salon because that's what we knew. But as we saw that shift was changing, that we thought, actually, let's have a look at what everyone else is doing and see what is the sort of market looking like. And yeah, we love the freedom of being freelance. There's so many names for freelance now, self-employed, mobile, but we'll just use the term freelance or independent. And yeah, that's just kind of what we wanted to do, but we didn't know in what capacity. We came back after COVID, as everyone else did, unsure of how the industry was going to go. And it was a real difficult time, really. But we got through it the first year, really successful first year, being self-employed, hit the VAT threshold very quickly. So the first year was a big learning curve for us.
Huge.
With our accountant, we were on the phone all the time to him, asking about what's this, what's that, why have we got to pay this, how can we do this? So, and that led us to doing what we are doing now, which is a co-work salon. And we love the fact that with our independence, we have been on the same journey that they would have been on, or they're about to go on. We've covered all forms of being self-employed, freelance, commission split, to get where we are now. So I feel like we're on quite a good footing to help give, it's always advice if people ask for it. We're never lecturing, never telling people this is how you should do it. This is just our personal experience that we give advice from. Other people have different ways of doing it and they might say the complete opposite. But for us, this is how we've got where we are now because of the journey we've been on.
Well, I think we sort of looked at it through that sort of period where we're kind of like, do we just do something that's like sort of small? Do we do the dream and go super big? And in the end, we went with the dream and went big because we felt we had it in us to do it. And we had sat through sort of lockdown, sort of planning meticulously kind of what it was that, how we could improve on our take of what was happening in the industry. And whilst we were two independent hairdressers ourselves, so it was kind of like setting up something that we believed was going to really help other people become independent, because we did sort of see that, especially after COVID, more and more people, and not just in our industry, across the board, were sort of working remotely or from home or independently. So it kind of gave us the push to really go for it. And what we missed as being two independents was the salon side, having amazing professional hair care, retail, the brands. So that was what really pushed us, was to put in our supply store, to have all the retail back, to have professional hair care at the backwash, that as an independent, you don't have to bring this suitcase with you every single day full of your tongs and, products. Is where we were kind of like, look, we've got some incredible stuff in our supply store. If there is a product that you really love and you want to bring it in, absolutely fine. But let us provide some of these things for you. So then it just makes everyone's life that little bit easier.
Okay. Well, we've opened up so many different areas there to discuss, which is great, which is absolutely great. I mean, I'm as you're talking then, Ross, about the retail area and stuff, I straight away was reimagining, like on your website, just the visual that you've got of all that. The salon looks really homely. It actually reminds me a little bit of a Soho house, a club. And it's very firmly, I mean, over the last, 20 years ago, whatever it was when you started hairdressing, it was very much, there was a black and white era of hairdressing salons. And everything was black and white, and it was cold, hard sort of, fixtures and fittings. And and that was right for that time. And as we sort of have gone into this new era of hairdressing, the salon design thing has changed as well. And a lot of it is about color. And I love the color palette that you've used in the salon, and making it more homely, more comfortable, more of a sort of well, as I said, like a boutique hotel or a club like Soho House or whatever it is. And we could talk about that, and we'll probably come back to that. But I just want to mention one thing you mentioned for our audience so that they understand what it is. You mentioned the term VAT threshold. And I just want to, particularly for our non-UK salons, because obviously they don't have the VAT or the VAT, which is it's a tax basically that we have to pay in the UK. And it's an interesting point to bring up, because I'll often talk on the podcast about what is driving this independent or freelance or whatever the term is that we're going to use. And interestingly, those words are thrown around in different ways in different countries. In some countries, they have a very clear legal definition of what that term means. In other countries, it doesn't. So there's so much sort of fluidity between how you describe this, business unit of one, that has legal implications in one country, but not in another. But let me just get back to the VAT or the VAT threshold. In the UK, if you are a business that generates in excess of £90,000 a year, then you have to pay VAT. And the VAT or VAT tax is 20%. And so if you do up to £90,000, you do not have to pay VAT. Now, for our American audience, I've done a conversion for you. The £90,000 equals 118,000 US dollars. For our Australian audience, £90,000 equals 175,000 Australian dollars. So you can see that it's a considerable amount of money, but many hairdressers working by themselves will already hit that number. And so one of the things in the UK that is driving this move towards independence is that if you are a business unit of one and you're doing less than that £90,000, you don't have to give the government 20%. As soon as you do £90,000 and one penny, you have to give the government 20% of the whole lot. And that is a lot of money. And so that's one of the things that's, so 20% tax. Again, I've done a quick conversion for our international audience. 20% of that US dollars is $35,000. So straight off the top, you've got to give the government $35,000 and that means you have to increase your income by $35,000 overnight to be in the same place, which is just a ridiculous scenario. So I don't want to get bogged down on that for our global audience. It's very much a domestic issue. But I just wanted to clarify what that meant to people, because it is a major driver in the UK of this push towards more independent people, which is why we've got something like 65 to 70% of hairdressers in the UK that are now self-employed, working in some sort of business model, rented chair, co-working space, whatever we want to call it. Okay, so I've addressed that, got that out of the way. We won't need to go there anymore. But I didn't mention, and I'm 99% right, I think, in saying this, that you're a couple as well. Yeah, in a relationship, couple. Okay, so you're business partners and you're a couple. How do you split up the roles in the business? Who looks after what areas?
I tend to do a bit more of the business. We're both on the shop floor 4 or 5 days a week. I'm on the shop floor 4 days a week. Ross is on 5, maybe 6 days. Depends how much we've got to pay the salon off.
But I do more creative side. Jack does more of the business side. And we try and keep that pretty separate, actually, because we feel like if we both tried to do, we would just step on each other's toes all the time. So we actually wrote like an independent handbook for all the independents that join us. So it's got everything in there from recommendations for accountants, for people to try and understand this VAT threshold, when you need to do it, when, what happens, how it goes. And that is Jack's side. Jack is the man to ask for any of those questions when it comes to members here.
I think it's just understanding, because we're all creatives in the industry, but it's just not, some people don't absorb numbers or writing as fastly as others. It's just our brains all work differently. So I can seem to absorb it easier and scan through something and just understand it. Whereas Ross, he needs a bit more longer time to process it. So I think as well, being 2 business owners, and we've been freelance now for over 5 years, and it took a while to find a path of who's sort of doing what and who takes on board more stuff than others. It works well. I think it's just trying to respect each other's place as well, because sometimes Ross might not understand the reason why I made a decision on something, and then I vice versa. If we've been on a shoot, I'm like, what are you doing? But you have to just try and remember you've both got your own place.
We never really knew any different because we met working in a salon. We've never really known anything different as to work together and to live together. But I definitely think even, setting up the salon, I think we definitely had to establish where we were and who was the boundaries, because I just think you can't go into it that way. When it came to like choosing sort of colours and palettes and decor and stuff, I'm like, I want to know everything. I'm all over it. And then when it came to the figure side, I was so baffled. I was like, this is, Jack, you need to help here.
It's that whole left brain, right brain thing, isn't it? Some of us are more left brain orientated, some of us are more right brain. We both use both sides, but we're stronger in one than the other. I live and work with Melinda, my wife and business partner, and she'll say that I'm really easy to live with. What advice do you give to people? Because it's not easy, is it? When you live and work together 24/7, how do you handle that? And I'm sure, as you said, you've always sort of lived and worked together, but now you live and work together and you've got this big business. It really infiltrates every area of your life. What advice would you give to people as to how to make that work? Because that presents another set of challenges again, doesn't it?
It does, but I think, we try to now, because, when we first opened, it's like you're here 24/7 and we're still very new in the business. But we do try to have different evenings where we finish, one of us tries to go home. We have a little dog. So it's nice if one of us can finish at 5 and someone comes in earlier, someone starts a bit later, so you are having your own time too.
Yeah.
Sometimes just taking a day out of the business to yourself. So Jack will maybe come in one day and I'll maybe come in a different day. So we can just have a day off. Because if we're both off together all the time too, predominantly we end up speaking about the business and having meetings on the business, because that's just the nature of what we do. But if we have a day to ourselves, you do tend to think, I'll sort of think in my head, well, Jack's in the salon today, he's got this. If he needs me, I'm here. And vice versa. So I think one of us has to, sort of take that sometimes and just...
I think you're just letting each other breathe with stuff. Like I'll quite happily sit on the laptop till 10 o'clock at night, just watching TV, and Ross is watching TV. And it doesn't bother me at all because I'm just getting what I need to get done. Whereas Ross, for example, wouldn't want to be sat in front of the laptop till 10 o'clock at night. He'd much rather do his day back to back in the salon with all of his clients. But and I like that too. But I think just like back to your point, you do have your own strengths and you just get into rhythm. Sometimes, like especially at the minute, we've got the industry in the UK is quite heavy this quarter of like industry events, and there's like Salon International, and there's lots of stuff going on. So you kind of your days off and your time ends up being reduced, and so do your evenings as well. So we still have to run the salon and the business, and we've got lots of people registering interest as well. So you're just constantly trying to keep on top of. I think any business owner, whether you have an independent model or self-employed or employed, you're always trying to balance. I don't think you ever get the perfect balance with it. There's quite a big thing in the UK at the minute, I would find, is about burnout. So people saying like, you need to have these boundaries with clients, with suppliers, with brands. But I think we're just trying to find our own way of doing it, because you can take all these bits of advice from different people, but then ultimately you're the only person that can take the advice and do it. So you might find we've had advice from different peers in our industry, which has been great. Some which we kind of thought, let's implement because they have a successful salon themselves, but actually it just didn't really work for us. I think you have to find your own path, but it's great. I think the industry is very supportive, and I think we've had great support from lots of people and just great bits of advice. We haven't had any horrible anything like that at all. So that made us running the business easier, because you think actually we're getting great support, getting good advice from people, and people are genuinely happy that you're doing something. I think especially we were a bit nervous about when we did open this, is that independent freelance in the industry at the minute can sometimes be seen negatively. So that for us, but I think now people can maybe see that we're actually trying to elevate the independent space. Like we're working with brands, we've got retail back, we try and educate our independents that you do have to pay VAT, you have to pay your tax. Like it's trying to put a certain percentage away. Don't get yourself in a situation where you've left an employed salon, which I think what does happen is you tend to leave a salon when you're at the height of what you're making for the salon. So you see that figure and you think, oh, I can take all that myself. But actually, we've kind of been there as well. You kind of think, this is amazing. I'm taking in 6 figures each year, which is great. But then actually, when you break it down, like you were saying, Anthony, when you see what you actually have and you have your cost of stock, when you're having to buy gloves, when you're having to mix up your own colour and get all this stuff, like you see that your profit, and you have to pay yourself holiday pay. What happens if you get sick? Have you got insurance? There's all of this stuff, which I think it gives you a different respect for your former employers, because you think, actually, I understand those reasons why you were maybe saying certain things. So it's definitely an education, but I think it's been well so far. But I think like anyone in the business, it's always learning. There's always going to be new ways to navigate through. And I think having two of us together is a bit easier because then we can
support each other, and I think we are quite aligned in how we think. Luckily we have, we do have similar tastes. So when it comes down to making big decisions on how this was going to look, we quite like similar sort of things anyways. And I think then it goes back to, I tried to support Jack through the business sort of side because he does take that on, and respecting that, that's what Jack does. And I'm super happy to be, I really love being at the back of the chair. That is where I'm happiest. And Jack was quite happy to do less of that. So it worked out really well for us.
Yeah. Are there any other partners in the business? Anyone else involved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had some investment from one business partner, but again, that was quite a big, not a big learning curve actually, because she was very respectful of our business, so she bought into ours. We're fully transparent. We're still majority shareholders. We have full control, but it was just someone that saw something in us, and she saw our business plan, and she was like, I think if you want the dream, then you need to sort of go for it, because what would have happened is if we just had a small place with a few chairs, we'd be constantly chasing our tail. We would have maybe just been renting chairs somewhere else. But I think doing what we're doing, we saw the bigger idea.
We saw the bigger idea, and I think we put so much into our business plan, and we were actively trying to change how independents are seen in our industry. We didn't have the access. We didn't always get the training from, when you're part of an employed salon, you get the brand new colour launch, you get the new electrical launch, so everything gets sent into the salon for people to try and use. And as an independent, it just didn't happen. It's like, we kind of felt like, okay, we're still working on this super high level, but actually we don't have things just readily available to us anymore. It was kind of like, I almost felt like we were overlooked in a sense. But
well, it's hard sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I was going to say it's hard for, if you've got a salon, a traditional salon, and you, and let's say I work for product company X, well, I know that I can come and walk in the door, I can talk to the owner of the salon, where there might be 10, 20, 30 staff or whatever, and I can do business with the owner. That infiltrates down into the 10, 20, 30 staff in terms of what products they're using, what retail they're selling, etc. But as soon as you have these sort of, co-working spaces, independent contractors, rent-a-chair, booth renters, whatever we're going to call them, it's like, well, who do you talk to? Because they're all independent businesses, aren't they? And that is the challenge. So I dare say what you just said is correct, that you do to some degree get overlooked. I understand you saying that, Ross. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, it was super important for us, and we have worked super closely with all the brands that we have in our supply store. We've worked super closely with them on how we change this. And a lot of how we are changing it is by us providing the backwash for people to use from these, professional hair care brands. It was the one thing that we really did struggle with when we were independent, was having to carry our shampoos and conditioners. There is no one shampoo that is good for every client's hair. So, we couldn't just rock up with one shampoo of something. We had to have everything that we could, that we felt we needed for our clients to use. So we sort of felt like when we set this up, we were like, if we could provide that, and if we could provide some electricals on the floor, if we could provide some floor stock, and then also Jack has worked meticulously on the website and updating the stylist department area where...
Yeah, so essentially we try and just involve the independents as much as possible, but bearing in mind, we don't want them to feel like they're in an employed salon. So there's a really fine line between putting something in front of someone and saying, this is what it is, and then saying to them, this is it, this is what you need to use. You need to be doing this with this. I think it's trying to find that balance, because some independents, they need a bit more nurturing, and they kind of need that, this is this is that, this is how you use it. Whereas another independent might say, I'll take that, I'll make my own mind up.
No, sorry. I was going to say there's another issue around this as well, which is, and it affects different countries, and even within certain countries, particularly the US, it can be different in different states, and that is as the business model is changing, and we're having more independents, self-employed, business unit of one. The tax man, whether you're in Australia, the UK, the US, whatever, the tax man's sort of looking at this going, okay, we need to get some clarity around, are they actually an independent business, or is this just some sort of tax avoidance, tax evasion, thing going on here? And so in different countries, they're coming up with very firm definitions about what defines whether someone is legally self-employed or not. And the word that comes up, particularly in the US, is the word control. And if you have any control over them, then actually they're not self-employed, they're an employee. So, and then all the ramifications of that, you've got to pay their benefits, you've got to pay their tax, you've got to pay yada, 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 yada. It goes on and on and on. So, and as soon as you start talking about products, that's why I jumped in there, is that if you say to people, oh, these are the products we use, well, that's control. If you say these are the days you have to work, that's control. If you say you have to wear black, that's control. If you say these are our prices, that's control. So what I wanted to ask you was, as you're based in the UK, what are the legal definitions that you've had to, because I'm sure, 100% sure that you would have investigated all of this, Jack. So what are the legal definitions that enable you to open a business, and what are the classifications or the whatever the words are to guarantee that you're not on the hook and that they are legitimately self-employed people? So talk to us about that.
So we, first of all, we have an independent contractors agreement, which essentially is a contract. We had it drawn up with an employment lawyer, a commercial lawyer, and I can't remember the name of the other guy, but it was essentially, it had to really clarify that we charge a monthly membership fee, a monthly fee, and then they pay either per hour or per day at independent. So you had to have a clear idea of what this is. It's not, we don't take any commission split. They do all of their own bookings. They take all their own payments. We supply them in the contract. We're very clear about what we supply. We supply with the workstation, the trolley, the chair. We don't, the only transaction financially is they pay us for the space. We don't take any money from them in that sense. So, and with same with the retail area, I think that was probably what was missing from our side, from the industry, because it's so quite new here, this sort of concept of these co-work spaces. Is like what we missed was the retail, but how do we go about having the retail, but everyone can bring their own products in, their own color, they can bring whatever they want in. We just have a retail area that their clients can buy products and they get a kickback from whatever, how much ever they sell. And that is in the form of a free hour. So we have that in our contract. It's not a big contract. It's very clear about what we have to provide and what they have to provide. Right. And the same with any business transaction stuff. If we host an event or education, there's very clear boundaries either side of what it is. We can't tell them how many hours to work or how many days to work or when they take holiday. But it's a very clear business transaction. I think as well, I think that's what a lot of people are maybe scared of talking about, because this is what we're doing as a business transaction. With every independent we have, they run a business, we run a business, we both want to make money. So we're very clear and transparent on the fact of that's how it is. I think because when we're not their employers by any means, we can't say to them, you have to do this, have to do that. We can give advice on, like we said earlier, about certain topics. But fundamentally, they're there to run their own business. If their business isn't working, we can maybe talk with them, but fundamentally we have our own business to run. So we're quite clear, and it's quite clear. I think you have to be really clear about what you were saying about this grey area, because HMRC is very clear that, like you said, you can't take their booking, you can't deal with their bookings, they have to take their own payments. We can't be filtering money through our business and then giving it to them, because for us, when we spoke to HMRC, which was it was a bit painful trying to actually get some clarification on what is going to be the crackdown. But I think for us, from our knowledge, is that we're not filtering money and giving it back to them. So for us, that was a great area. If we were going to do a commission split, for example, we felt that we'd leave ourselves open to having to pay their tax if it came back.
Okay, so I just want to jump in and clarify. HMRC, for our non-UK audience, stands for His Majesty's Revenue Collection. So, in other words, the tax man, the bad boy. That's what HMRC means. So some of the sticking points are sometimes around, and again, like I say, it's different countries and even different states within the same country. They are not, meaning you, the business owner, are not allowed to handle any of their money. So you're not allowed to collect payment for their clients. You're not allowed to take their appointments. So are they things in the UK that are correct? Right.
That's kind of what we found from it. Other people might say different, but that's kind of from what I spoke to with our solicitors and HMRC. They said that these are the things that are in this grey area that no one can really give the answer for. So you're better to be out of the grey area. We're just edging on the side of caution that way. And actually, for us, when we were on a commission split model, which it suits some people with some businesses, I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that, but for us, we didn't really feel like we felt like we were employed again, because someone's doing all your bookings for you, they're taking all your payments, and you're just waiting at the end of every month to get that split. So for us, it didn't really work. But
okay. So when you were talking about the retail before, it's basically you have this beautiful retail area. You carry lots of inventory. That is a separate business. That is your business. Like, this is a retail we sell. And if the people that come in here and happen to get their hair cut and colored by the people who work here, if they want to buy stuff in our shop, then they can. And that's that relationship. So you have a relationship with the manufacturers that supply you the retail, and that's really clear. And if a stylist that works in there, if one of their clients happen to buy things, you do reward them in terms of time off there, or a free hour, I think you referred to it as. Okay. So
I think for us, it made it a clearer way of then, if we were going to give them a commission, for example, then we're sending them money. So just for us, it felt a bit like a grey area again.
It's two different transactions. So if one of our independents, they'll take their own bill for their cut and colour, and if that client then wants to buy something from our supply store, they then pay on our system.
Okay,
so it's two different, completely.
Okay, right. So totally understand that. But then there's the other bit, and that is the professional use inventory. So the color and whatever else is in the room, in the back room. You used a term before, Ross. I think you called it your supply store. So so tell me about that. What does that mean? Have you done a deal with manufacturers, and more than one manufacturer has given you color inventory, which you then sell to the people who work with you? I mean, how does that work? Have I got that right, or have I just made that up?
It's the same as front of house as it is back of house.
So we've got 4 different colour houses that we have in our store. Then that way we keep a bit of stock, in the sense of like all bases, some high lifts, bleaches, peroxides. So, if one of our independents who's working, if they run out of colour, or, someone decides to change the colour, then there is a backup there. Again, people can bring in, some people will be like, I like this colour, and that's what they bring. Predominantly, that's how this works. But then we also have a back stock in our shop, and with us, that we can also supply to them.
It just took away that need of having to go to a wholesaler. We have stuff that we have colour that they can buy as well. So we have the retailer upstairs, we have a wholesaler essentially in our
got it.
Supplies.
Okay, all right. One of the things I loved about the salon, I haven't been in there obviously yet. I've just seen all the pictures, and there's a lot of attention being paid to Now you called it, I don't think you called it the staff lounge, but it was the something lounge. And I loved it. I mean, talk to us about the importance you've put on that sort of staff lounge concept and what that's like, because I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. I think, and I understand. We both understand if for example, if this is going to be an employed salon, you need to have every bit of space matters, because the chair obviously generates revenue. Mm-hmm. So what we kind of found was that now, because the stylists pay to use our space, the back of house should be as good as the front of house.
Yeah. And also it's like, if you've got half an hour in the middle of your sort of very busy day, it's so nice that our independents can, pop the lunch in the microwave. They've got a lovely table to sit at. We've got a really beautiful sort of banquette seating area where they can sort of plug their laptops in, do their bookings. You need that bit of time as an independent, because you don't have someone doing these things for you anymore. It's so we felt like the back of house had to be just as incredible as the front of house.
A calm space where no clients go in at all, and it's just for us, it's quite a big selling point for any independents joining us. That actually it does show that you've maybe thought a bit more about the other side of the experience. Yeah, the shop floor can look amazing. But then actually, if you want somewhere nice to eat your lunch, or like you said, Ross, do your coffee or do your bookings, it just means that you're kind of. It shows investment from both sides, I think, because if you invest in people, they invest back again. Again, it's that business transaction that benefits both sides.
Right. Okay. Well done with that. I think that's great. And there's so many salons out there where the break room is, or back room, whatever you want to call it, where it's not. It ain't pretty. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. I've got so much to get through here and so little time. So let me ask you about a few really important things. I want to congratulate you on transparency. And what I mean by that is, on your website, you clearly display what it's going to cost someone to work there. And you have these different packages. You have it from like as little as an hour to if someone works a 3-day week, or someone wants to work a 5-day week, what those rates will be. And you're totally transparent about it. And when I looked at it, and I've always tried to have a very broad mind about different business models, because it's just a reality of the world that we live in, and it's not going to go away. So you have to look at different business models, understand them, understand what's driving them, and what works for you, and your target audience in terms of both clients and hairdressers working for you. So I loved the fact that you'd done it. And here's the bit I really loved, is you're not shy on what it needs to be that you charge people. And so I think that's a good thing, because I see a lot of people out there who they are charging people a rental fee that is just like, why would you bother? Like, this is, as the owner, why would you bother to do that? You are never going to be making any money out of that person. And I see this all over the world, that a lot of salon owners, we're going to talk about your prices in a minute, if you don't mind, that a lot of salon owners do not charge a realistic amount of money. And I looked at the numbers and I thought, from your perspective, from the business owner's perspective, you'd go, do you know what? This could work. There's good money to be made here. We're charging a realistic amount of money, and we need to recoup this sort of money because of the investment we've made in the salon. I mean, you've made a big investment in the fit out of that salon, but also you're on the ground floor in Wardour Street in the middle of London, Soho. I don't want to ask what the rent is, but I know we're talking telephone numbers. So you've got to be realistic here. And a lot of hairdressers are under this misguided sort of impression that, well, when I go self-employed, I get to keep all the money myself. Well, no, honey, you don't. There's overhead that you've got to contribute to. And yes, you'll have the freedom of being self-employed, but also the responsibility that comes with it. And it's not cheap. You have to pay in order to be self-employed. So can I just ask you to give a bit of an overview of what the packages are and what the pricing structure is?
Yeah. So we charge £150 a month, and that is a monthly fee. And that enables you to book either, we call it the power hour, which is £29 per hour. So that is, you can do as many power hours as you want. If you just want to do 9, 10, 3 or 4, book your chair, that's it. You can do that all week long. You can mix it up. We also have something called the flexi worker. Is if you book 2 to 3 days a week, we always class a day because we're open 9 till 8. So we class it as a full day. So you can book 2 to 3 days and it'll be £242 a day. You pay at the end of every single day as well. Plus we have all the extra costs, like if you buy colour. We do charge for drinks as well, because I think, especially in, I don't know what it's like around the world, but for us to have the space that we have, you have to have different revenue streams as well. So for us, we do charge for drinks. Each drink comes with like a premium side, whether it be a pretzel or a brownie. We have a really good coffee machine. So we found the experience had to be there to be able to charge for that as well. Just pouring out a juice out of a carton wasn't sort of, you can't charge for that. And a bit of Nescafe, whatever it is, didn't really work. We had to have, if you're going to charge for something, you need to have, so you need to back it up. Like we found that if you're going to just say, this is £3 like for a coffee, why is it £3? You can see the good coffee machine, it comes with a good brownie. Sorry, I went off track then. But we also have something called the hard worker, which is 4 to 6 days a week, and that is £232 a day. So the idea is, the more days that you work, you get a cheaper day rate. And the same if you were booked onto a job, sometimes you get a sort of a better day rate. So that's kind of how we worked it. And I think as hairdressers, and using Ross as an example, when we were booking per hour, you can never keep track of, actually, I can't forecast what I'm going to be spending this month. We always try and say to people, try and forecast what your spend's going to be. Don't just be going to wholesalers and spending £500, because you need to have some sort of budget. So when we kind of I use Ross as an example, when I said, if we charge £232 a day for 4 days, you can then say, I'm going to work 3 weeks of that and then do a couple of power hours. So you know that month that you've got that set figure you're going to pay. And that's what we found made it a bit easier for us. And that's kind of why we charge what we charge. We're fully transparent on the website, like you said, because who are we hiding from? We're confident in what we're doing in our model. It's just the same as employed salons are confident with a percentage that they charge that you get commission wise. So it's kind of,
and we like full transparency. We feel like it's super important to have.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's not. It's the pricing is the pricing, and it's kind of like we didn't ever want to go down that sort of where it's like you go on our website and it's like, okay, so how do I do this? There's no information, or I feel like maybe I'm too scared to approach this. Is it too much for me? Is it too little? It's by providing everything there, from
they can make
from
the choice.
Everything you need. It's just there. You can make your own mind up. It's just so much easier.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read some conversions I've done for the audience so that they understand what pounds means in US and Australian dollars. So the £150, okay, that Jack mentioned, which is what do you call it? A membership fee? You call that a membership fee? Yeah. So you pay
a monthly fee.
Sorry, you dropped.
Yeah. So it's a monthly fee. So yeah, like essentially a membership fee.
Right. Okay. So the £150 is 196 US dollars, or Australian dollars. It's ballpark 300. So very close to the $300 mark. So that is like a membership fee, and that does not entitle you to anything except you're a member and you're allowed to work in there and then book one of those packages. And those packages can be either £29 an hour. I didn't do the conversion on that, but you get the idea here. Or the £242 for a day. That's if you book a 2 to 3 day week. So if we go a 3 day week, and it was interesting, you said they've got to pay at the end of every day. That is £726 a week, plus the membership fee, which if you're doing the 2 to 3 days a week, that is 12 days a month. So if we divide the £150 by 12 days, that's another £12.50 a day, if that makes sense. I hope I haven't made that overly convoluted. So in total, that's £763 that you're paying for rent for 3 days. And that includes the membership fee. Now, that's a lot of money. And when you convert that to American dollars, that is 998 American dollars. It's 1,484 Aussie dollars. I'm congratulating you because I'm glad that you're going, this is a realistic amount of money. But then, because you wouldn't be paying anything like that in the US or Australia is my guess. Okay, is my guess. But then, depending on locations where you are, perhaps you are. So I think that is a really good, realistic number. And so that leads me into the hairdresser. And the hairdresser thinking, on one hand, I'm working for Joe up the road and I'm an employee and I want freedom. I want to be the man. I want to be my own boss. I want to keep all the money. And so they come to you and they have a tour of the salon and they go, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is fantastic. You talk them through the numbers and at some level they're going, yeah, I really want to work here. Yeah, I really want to work here. But at another level, they're asking the question, but can I afford to? So the question I'm asking you, and this might be early days yet, because you've only been open 2 months. And I think that if we were talking in a year, you'd have a better answer around this question. And so the question I'm asking you is, at some level, you will know a number that you're going to suggest to people that they need to be generating every week currently in order to make this financially viable for them. What would you suggest that number was? So if I'm working for Mary up the road and I'm doing £2,500 a week, would you say, oh yeah, you'll do well in this environment? Or would you be saying £2,500, you're only just going to be scraping by, it's going to be sort of 50-50 at the end of the day? So what's the number that you would be thinking about?
So we always try and recommend, and it's always a recommendation, is that they try and aim for, and this is where we break it down into sort of the VAT, how we start on that conversation. We say to them, aim for at least £1,000 a day plus your VAT. And we try and work on a bit of a day because it's a bit easier to work it out as well, because then your next week might be different. So we try and aim for at least £1,000 a day plus your VAT. So try and aim for £1,200 at least. So that just means that you have to factor in your costs. If you're using expensive colour brands, then you need to work out kind of is this colour working for you. But we try and always just make sure you break it down. We've had a couple of people that are employed that wanted to sort of come here, and we've kind of said to them, you really need to get a bit busier to be able to afford to be doing this. So we kind of try and say to them, you need to be hitting a minimum figure, I would say. If someone asks, some people are quite confident, they can do the maths themselves in their heads. Maybe someone like me, where someone like Ross maybe need a bit more, just to sort of, what is the sort of figure that I need to get to?
Yeah, I think it sort of goes on, we have to remember that we're in central London where, your average sort of cut and colour price on this level is £400 or £500, So then you've got some clients, some stylists, it's kind of like they all maybe work on the fact. Some people do different things. We could have somebody that does 10 haircuts in one day, and we could have somebody that does 2 colours in one day and makes the same amount of money.
Yeah, okay.
Because it could be a big colour job, or it could be somebody that's doing 2 sets of extensions and they've made probably, £1,500 on that 2 appointments. So it's kind of, I think, all your pricing, it has to be relevant to the area that you're operating in and sort of where you are. We are sort of, like I say, in central London, so it's kind of it's a realistic amount of money for where we are situated.
If we were going to move the model to maybe somewhere, it'd be, you probably have to adjust the pricing accordingly.
Absolutely.
To where, whatever, if you go to a different city maybe, but where we are, that's kind of.
Yeah, I'm not critical of it at all. I'm complimentary of the fact that we're charging that, and that hairdressers need to understand. While you were talking, I did a quick conversion because I wanted to know what £1,200 a day was in US dollars. It's 1,569 US dollars or 2,330 Australian dollars. So if you're a hairdresser listening to this, you've really got to be asking yourself, well, am I capable of generating that sort of money per day on the prices I charge and the clientele I've got in order to make this work? Because I think that, you know, I was writing a title down. Oh, I don't know if I wrote it down in my notes here. I wrote a title down, a suggested title. Don't know if I'll use this for the podcast, but a title I wrote down to sort of give me an angle for what we're going to talk about was, is this a co-working salon model that could work for everyone? Now, I may or may not use that, but it's a relevant question because it can work for people that are busy producing a lot of money. And with a good, solid clientele, this can definitely work for them. But, you know, I talk to hairdressers that you're lucky if they're doing, you know, £1,200 a week, you know, in certain parts of the country, never mind £1,200 a day. And as you said, Ross, you've got to obviously adapt these numbers to fit your location, no matter where you're at, because the rent you're paying in Soho is not going to be the rent you're paying in you know, I don't know, Aberdeen and, you know, Scotland, or I don't know, Wollongong in Australia, or Boise, Idaho, or whatever, you know. So you've got to look at all that sort of stuff. Wow, that's fantastic. So with the different packages you've got, do you refer to them as rental packages? Is that the right term or not? Because I know terminology is really important here. And more importantly, out of the different packages you've got, which package is the most popular at the moment with the people that you've got working out of there?
Yeah. So, I mean, people can call it what they want to call it, like our independents, always say different stuff. We call it work sessions. We call them the work sessions. We kind of felt it fit with our branding, and we kind of all of that stuff. And the most popular one I would say at the minute, because we've got lots of people that are sort of just starting and they're maybe working in a couple of different co-work spaces, is the power hour, and then also the flexi worker. They're the sort of two most popular, because that's why it's called a bit of a sort of pun, like the pun intended, that a hard worker is, because if you're doing 4 to 6 days a week, you're really busy, like hard worker, blah blah. So I'd say the power hour and the flexi is at the minute definitely the most sort of picked option of work session. And I think, like you were saying earlier, it's maybe not for every single hairdresser because of the sort of price point, but I think we do recommend to everyone, when they do start some menu, if you get promotion somewhere, your price increases, and with the salon that we created, you can actually afford and justify upping your price slightly, because I think as an industry we do undercharge quite a lot, and I think you should never judge how much money that your client has, because we've got clients that if you were to look at them, you might think, oh, they haven't got that, but then actually they could be have much more disposable income than you think. So you never assume. And I think as well, that was quite a big thing for us.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I want to thank you both for being so transparent and open and honest and willing to share everything. I know people everywhere will take a lot from that, because there's a lot of great points that you bring up. Now, I want to encourage everybody. I mean, when I post this on Instagram, I'll share some of the images of your salon. But for those people that don't follow me on Instagram or don't see that, then I'd encourage them to go direct to your website and check out the salon, because it's a beautiful salon. It's an absolutely beautiful space. But whereabouts can people connect with you on Instagram or any other social media channels?
Yeah, so we're on both on Instagram.
And we have the Williams-Hirst Instagram.
Yeah, Williams-Hirst, our salon Instagram, our personal Instagram. Our emails are on the website, on our Instagram as well. So.
Right. Well, listen, I will put those links in the show notes, and so wherever you're listening to this, you'll be able to find those links. So listen, if you're listening to this podcast with Jack and Ross and have enjoyed it as much as I have, do me a favor, share it with other people that you know would also enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. So to wrap up, Jack and Ross, Williams-Hirst co-founders, thank you for being on this week's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you. It's been great.